Really appreciate all this work. Scott Joy is out there. I want to thank him for pulling this together, and you, Sophie, as well. I am very pleased to be here. I'm glad that my opponent is here. I've tried to get him to be on the same stage with me before. I've asked for several debates one-on-one, no response, so this is very good that he's here. And my name is Ken Reid. I live in Tysons, and I am an Orthodox Jew. I attend Chabad in Tysons, Herndon, and occasionally here in Fairfax, which is down the road. I'm the father of 2 adult twins. They were raised in Loudoun County Public Schools. And I've owned and operated a business for 30 years and was elected 4 times to local office in Leesburg, including 4 years on the County Board of Supervisors. And that's where I made the very difficult decision to be the 5th deciding vote to bring Metro to Dulles Airport and Loudoun County, which I still get grief for that to this very day, unfortunately. I put my name in to run to give voters a choice. And since the defeat of Democrat Chap Peterson, who I feel served this district gallantly, even though I'm a Republican, he's a Democrat, I feel like this is now an open seat, and despite the odds, I am running to win. And I've talked to many, many voters since April, and even though I got a late start, I still find a lot of them are not willing to vote for a Republican because of Trump or abortion or book banning or all these issues that I feel the Democrats are using to deflect from issues that we in the General Assembly have to solve. Crime problem, schools, 24 of the 24 high schools in this county have failing SAT scores. And a number of schools in the Providence district, about 80% of the students are falling behind on test scores. We have a problem with affordable housing. I serve on the Tenant Landlord Commission, and I've been learning a lot about what we can do to make things better for young couples and even for seniors who don't have good choices. Inflation, high gas prices, high taxes, and high crime. It's due in part to one-party rule. We need bipartisanship in Richmond, and I'm there to make it happen. Ken Reid is the name, KenReid.org. Thank you. He put one on at the Fairfax City Day, which was nice. But it is, even though it's an international issue, the fact is that the governor has an anti-Semitism commission which issued a report. One of the recommendations was for Virginia to join 30 other states that will not do business with any corporation that supports the boycott, divestiture, and sanctions of Israel. And that includes New York, California, and a lot of blue states. And the Democrats killed that bill. They killed that bill, and I don't know whether my opponent would support it. There are a lot of folks in the Muslim community who didn't want it. They thought it was an impingement on free speech. No, it is okay to criticize. There's no question. It is fair game to criticize any American person, any institution, any foreign power. But right now we are at war, and I look at this in the same way as Ukraine. We need to support Israel, and I support the president in what he's doing. I actually do not like a lot of the conservative people out there trying to take advantage of this and trying to say that he has dropped the ball on this. I don't believe that. We can get to that argument a later day, but right now we got to support our ally just like we support Ukraine, and I appreciate him for standing up, but I wonder if he will support BDS, anti-BDS legislation in Virginia, because that will come back before the General Assembly in the next session. And same with other recommendations from the Anti-Semitism Commission. Thank you.
We will now take the next question.
This is one of those issues that unfortunately keeps coming up all the time. And it's been, when I was on the Board of Supervisors, we had a jail that they had built, and it was sitting there empty. And a lot of those beds could have been used for mental health, and I actually made an effort to try to make that happen. There's a problem with lack of counselors, and I just learned, because we're going to have a discussion tomorrow with the ARC of Virginia, that there were a lot of budget amendments that didn't make it through that would have helped this situation. But this should be a higher priority than what it is. And unfortunately, the reason why I believe it's not is because there's no special interests down in Richmond giving money to politicians to support it. I hate to say that, but the cost of campaigns has gone up so amazingly. I am not getting any donations from any of these lobbyists or any of these special interests. They're all individual donations. So if I win, I don't owe them anything. I mean, we saw this with the nurse practitioners. We have the most restrictive rules in the country that don't allow nurse practitioners to practice their craft unless they've been working under a doctor's supervision for 5 years. Every other state is 2 or 3. And again, the reason why is because the Medical Society of Virginia, the MDs, give millions of dollars in donations. So a lot of politicians will give lip service to it. You know, my opponent is getting a lot of these donations from special interests, from unions, and so therefore, they could very well dictate what he does down there. Me, I have voted several times against people who've given me money. I know that's a bit of a digression, but still, that in my view is the major problem, is that we don't have, unfortunately, a specific lobbying effort down there in Richmond that has made things happen. I lived in the day when we couldn't get, there were efforts to try to get autism counseling for kids, and you couldn't believe how difficult it was for legislators, Democrat and Republican, to get it through. And finally, Republican delegate Tad Greason got it through, so therefore there's a requirement, a mandate for insurance companies to provide counseling, because that's what saves kids from further problems later in life if they're autistic. So I'm all with helping out our most vulnerable people in our society, and I always have been. Thank you. That is really a very, very weak answer for somebody who wants to lead us. This is one of the most burning problems in Northern Virginia, is traffic. And despite billions that we spent on Metro, and remember, I facilitated bringing Metro to Loudoun County, and you know, and I support the state taking over the subsidy for Metro to alleviate the municipalities. But these private toll roads were built because there isn't that much money to build it. That was $3.7 billion that went into investing in building the I-66 express lanes west of the Beltway. But look what happened. VDOT, based on an order from the Transportation Planning Board and the Metropolitan Washington Air Quality Board, which are in COG, and they're completely controlled by Democrats. All the municipalities in the Washington area are Democrat controlled. They require HOV3. And so therefore, nobody's using them, because you need 3 people in a car instead of 2 that you had before. So Friday, eight of us, Republican delegates and senators, we recommended, we issued a plan where we are going to offer rebates to people who are frequent users, solo occupancy drivers. We're going to try to restore HOV2, and the most significant thing is to get rid of the highway robbery that existed, that Terry McAuliffe put in, and which Ralph Northam refused to do anything about, and also was killed by Chris Jones. I think he killed that bill in the General Assembly, that Jim LeMunyon had to roll back the tolls inside the Beltway, which are literally twice as much. It can cost you $27 to go from Tyson's on 123 to DC. And now they require 3 in a car. It's egregious, and the money wasn't used for the full widening of 66. Instead, it's being siphoned off for the Long Bridge project for Amtrak, which is important, but that doesn't alleviate that much pressure on 66. So that's what we want to do if we get elected, and that's where people have to get over their heebie-jeebies about Republicans. We have a plan, they don't. Now, in terms of the car tax, I advocate replacing it, not a full repeal, which would hurt the municipalities, and I'm on the record supporting that effort. So again, we need somebody in there who understands how people live their day-to-day lives, and that is driving. Public transportation has a role, bike trails have a role, they all have a role. But what we really need to do to relieve the stress of living in the Washington area, besides the cost of living, is to focus more on the traffic and the toll. The cost of the high price of these tolls is getting to people, and they're not using it, and they're sitting in congestion, and we have to address that. Thank you. The governor has an anti-Semitism commission which issued a report. One of the recommendations was for Virginia to join 30 other states that will not do business with any corporation that supports the boycott, divestiture, and sanctions of Israel. And that includes New York, California, and a lot of blue states. And the Democrats killed that bill. They killed that bill, and I don't know whether my opponent would support it. There are a lot of folks in the Muslim community who didn't want it. They thought it was a impingement on free speech. No, it is okay to criticize. There's no question. It is fair game to criticize any American person, any institution, any foreign power. But right now we are at war, and I look at this in the same way as Ukraine. We need to support Israel, and I support the president in what he's doing. I actually do not like a lot of the conservative people out there trying to take advantage of this and trying to say that he has dropped the ball on this. I don't believe that. We can get into that argument a later day, but right now we got to support our ally just like we support Ukraine, and I appreciate him for standing up, but I wonder if he will support BDS, anti-BDS legislation in Virginia, because that will come back before the General Assembly in the next session, and same with other recommendations from the Anti-Semitism Commission. Thank you. The answer to? Okay, great. Jeremy Bentham was a British philosopher, and he made this great comment: government has to do the greatest good for the greatest number. And I don't want to see any child of any sexual orientation, race, religion, creed feel uncomfortable or unappreciated in the schools or anywhere. That should be our goal as a free and egalitarian society. But I'm afraid that this issue has been made too much, we're making a mountain into a molehill. I'm sorry, did I say mountain into a molehill? Mountain from a molehill. Okay, sorry about that. I'm 65 years old, give me a break. Okay, so I'm not as young as him. Okay, so anyway, so this is something that affects very few students. But however, there are a lot of parents that I've talked to who are very concerned about having someone of the opposite sex from birth in the same restroom or locker room. So the policy of the governor implemented seems to be reasonable. But I think that we have to be focusing more on failing test scores, the composite index, which we haven't been asked about today, which is what has been depriving our communities in Northern Virginia of school funds for decades. And despite having a lot of clout in Richmond, we haven't made any changes in that. We have to be dealing with a merit-based education system. We have to get back to basics. And that's the thing that I'm going to be focusing on. And I hope that when the General Assembly convenes in Richmond in January, regardless of which party is in control, that they will focus on those issues first: transportation, tolls, affordable housing, crime, the things that Jeremy Bentham said government should be doing that impact the greatest number. And I hope that we don't get sidetracked and get into fights over this issue in Richmond. Thank you.